Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Tuesday. It is February the 24th. And if you're joining me for the morning program live and you're just seeing me now, coming in 10 minutes after the fact, let me just tell you, it's always an adventure here. It's not an adventure that I expect. Today, about 12 seconds before I was getting ready to hit the live button, I had all my videos queued up. I had all the clips that I wanted to do. I had all the windows open that I wanted to go and jump through for articles to review and all that kind of stuff. Out of nowhere, a Jesse Waters clip played from my archives. It's a funny one, and it's one that I will play for you guys a little bit later. It was the Fox News alert, we've got the backpack clip. And it's about 4 minutes long. And it just started playing. And I closed every window and I shut down every program. And there were no programs. I actually took a video of this. As everything shut down, it's just Jesse Waters' disembodied voice talking to me about a backpack. So I had to turn it all off. I turned it off. I turned it back on, and now I'm good to go. So we're a few minutes late because I literally had to start from the beginning again and grab it all and make sure all the videos were available. I will play you guys the video later on because it actually fits into today's program as one of the silly jokes that I can't help get away from because there are more updates in the Samantha Guthrie case. The update is there's no update whatsoever, by the way, but there's stories about it. So we're going to talk about that. All right. We're going to touch on a few things that are going on today that I think are interesting. State of the Union coming up tonight. We're going to talk about some New York Times stories, the failures of communism. New York City is not any better off. We're going to poke a little bit of fun at people on the left because that's what should be done sometimes, right? When I poke at people that are supposedly on the right, even though they're all left of me, it's because they're closer to me than the ones that are further away. So we'll make some fun. We'll have some fun with the lefties. We got some Gavin Newsom stuff, some really, really weird video coming out of him trying to pander to black voters. So we'll do that. More on the sort of fallout. And I want some meta-analysis of the silliness of Kash Patel getting unbelievable amounts of coverage and why it's so silly and what it actually means on sort of the meta-analysis of it. I think we're going to zoom back out. Again, I think it's a mutiny of our current law enforcement entity looking at their director and going, we're willing to serve you up on a platter. I saw a couple of representatives in Congress mentioning that they are going to add the Kash Patel drinking beer in the locker room to their ongoing investigation. If you guys don't get it, if, and I think when, Democrats take back the House in 2027, when they get sworn in January, it's going to be all over for Patel. He's got about, 12 months or 11 months left. They will impeach him. And then I think in 29, when a new president comes in, and I don't think it'll be a Republican at this point because I think we've set ourselves up for failure. And I've got some evidence of that to show you. Donald Trump has kind of told you, piss off. I don't actually care what you people think. I know I came in as a populist, but I'm not going to do populism. I'm going to do whatever I want. And that's not going to work for the next guy who's going to have to try to pick up where he left off. And I don't think it'll be successful. I think people will just tune out. And I keep getting messages from you, our audience, from people that are following me over on social media, and they're regularly saying, I'm just done with this. I'm not going to vote for you because I'm not going to do lesser of two evils. For the first time, I'm not interested. And people are more alert now maybe than they've ever been. So we're going to get all of that kind of stuff and a bunch more. And we're going to talk about the one thing that you can control in your life. You can't control a lot, it turns out, but you control your level of hydration. And it does a lot for your mood. It does a lot for your fitness. It's maybe that one thing that is so fundamental to health that if you forget it, you're probably screwed. We've been talking about all kinds of pesticides and junk and runoff and pharmaceutical waste popping up in our water supply. If you guys want to get that out and you want to just drink water the way it was meant to be drunk, why don't you check out my friends at Cove Pure. The website is covepure.com/Kyle. And using that website, using my name will save you $200 when you check out. It's a desktop unit or a countertop unit. It requires no additional plumbing. That's really great. You get to choose your water temperature, which means not only does it filter it, but it heats it or it cools it for you. You can get it lukewarm if that's your thing. But if you want to make a quick hot cup of tea or instant coffee, you can do that. It's got preset sizes, so it's real easy to figure out how much water you're drinking. Or if you're like, me and I've got kids and I don't trust them to push the button and make it work, they know how much to hit. They hit the custom filter with a custom size, and it drops it out just enough to fill their water bottles, which illogically are 11 ounces. So you don't want to go over the top of that. So it's a great little system. It's great for people who are renting. If you guys can't afford a home right now in this market, there's plenty of people that are in that space. I'm in the same spot. If you are someone who is an RVer, you might want to bring this with you, so you're not drinking whatever kind of weird stuff comes out of the faucet, or more importantly, out of those hoses you carry around with your RV. Check them out. It's a great little system. It's very easy to set up. That's what I liked most about it as well. I have one of the gravity drip systems downstairs, and we use it, but it was a real pain in the butt to set up, and I'm really worried about having to do the filters again because they suck that way. Anyway, right now you get $200 off, limited time. covepure.com/KYLE, covepure.com/Kyle. Start the new year off right. Start this February off. Get it for someone you love. And yeah, drink some good water. All right, let's get into today's program. We're going to do it right now. Okay. All right, so let's start off with something we don't always do. Let's do a little homage just to remind us what is really important in the world right now. And some of you have some different answers, I imagine, but none of you know what the right answer is if you didn't say the Dow. The Dow is over 50. No, the Dow is not over 50,000. It actually just dropped. And it fell over 800 points because Donald Trump decided that after we got to the point of 50, then we had the Supreme Court rule that the tariffs were not constitutional. And then they're like, we're going to do more tariffs. We're going to do 15% tariffs now. Now we're going to give everybody tariffs for everybody. We're going to make it work. And then, unfortunately, that wasn't the message the market was looking for. They thought maybe you would do some refunds and correct. So now we're down below 50. So I think that means that the pedophiles are in danger again. Am I correct about that? We are going to talk a little bit about Epstein. There's an ongoing fallout about Epstein. This is the problem when you start touting metrics that aren't real. And then when people don't give you real information. And I get the feeling that Donald Trump is so insulated in his bubble that he doesn't get real info. People are just hiding it. And that may be true. So let me just read the story here. This is from ABC News, one of their lead stories. The Dow closed more than 800 points down after Trump ratchets up tariffs over the weekend. He said he was going to slap a 15% tariff on most goods that are being imported, which is a lot of things in this country. We still haven't brought back enough manufacturing. I actually asked a couple questions of folks, and I got some social media responses. I don't know if they're bots. I don't know if they're garbage, but they're like, here's a list of bullet points for you to think about. And it was like, this person announced that they're going to be doing some new building in the United States of a factory. So we'll look forward to that in a couple years, Greg. I feel like I'm, you remember the gift? You guys remember the gift from Meet the Fockers, and the male nurse, the Merce, Greg Focker, goes to the house of the CIA guy, and it's De Niro, and he gives him the rare Israeli whatever tulip bulb or something, and it takes a couple years for it to bloom, and he goes, well, we'll look forward to that when it blooms, Focker. That seems like the kind of promises we keep getting from the MAGA people, but we're getting, so from the Trump administration says, we're going to fix your affordability crisis, and we're going to do it by making it really, really crappy in the short term. Now, that actually probably is the right answer. Let's be real. Like, austerity measures suck. But rather than say, look, guys, we're going to have to tighten our belts. Things are going to be tough. We are going to make things probably less affordable in the short run so that we can fix the country in the long run. Those of you who lived through the early 80s remember this. My parents' first home was like 14% interest rate, and they didn't have the money to afford it. The only way you do that is because you have to deflate the currency, and we have so much more currency inflation than we were dealing with at the end of the 70s and going into the 80s. Like, we are light years beyond that, so it might take a little while. But instead of doing that, they're trying to do two things at once. They're trying to message things that are not compatible with what regular people think. They're trying to say, look, we need you to say that we're doing awesome, but also the numbers aren't good. The numbers don't look great. So long-term fix, means that right now we are going to have to deal with short-term austerity measures, and they may take a while. Short-term is not immediate. And I keep getting reminded of that moment from Idiocracy where President Camacho, who's a professional wrestler, what is his name? Cruz, comes out and he fires the machine gun to get everyone to shut up. And he's like, I got a 3-point plan. We're going to fix the economy. But he doesn't have any sort of specifics. That's kind of where Donald Trump is, but he's like the 80-something-year-old fat white guy version of that. In any case, it's frustrating to watch lying messaging and then act like it's our fault. It's like, look, if you make bad promises, if you overpromise and underdeliver, at some point it's got to be on you. And maybe I'll put it in somebody else's voice. This is a guy I like, this is Owen Schroyer. Talk to him sometimes. And Owen put this out, and I think this is exactly it. You're supposed to give up on the things that you voted for, because if you don't, then we will win an election, even though we haven't really shared why it matters to you. In theory, what you voted for was the things you voted for. And this is where messaging and sort of the failing to set proper expectation, which is an elemental part of sales. Set the expectation and then at least meet, if not exceed it. Trump administration has been just god awful at that, unfortunately. And if they had come in with a less aggressive messaging, look, we're not going to be able to do all this stuff right away, but here's how it's going to work. And this is where the timetable is. And we are going to try to keep you guys abreast of it as soon as possible. That would be good. Instead of coming in and being like Howard Lutnick, sir, this is the golden era. You made everything great. Everything's amazing. You're so good. And does he just hear that crap all the time and actually believe it? I think he might. And I'm going to show you why.
So I'm sure by now you've noticed that all of the Trump loyalists that called us panicans last year are starting to have their own panikin episode, freaking out about 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential election. Now, of course, us panicans, as we were so called, are now being proven right, or I guess just ahead of the curve. But here's the ironic tragedy that MAGA has become, and why it's simply not going to be moving anytime soon. Notice what's being asked of the so-called panicans, or the people that are loyal to ideas and issues and not persons or personalities. The America First policies are what they're asking us to sacrifice.
Can we just hone in on what Owen is saying for 1 second, which is something that I know that other political commentators have made the point of, even though they've abandoned it. It's so obvious that if you are willing to just hone in on principles, then the person doesn't matter. The vessel by which you are given those principles or those policies are enacted just doesn't really make that much difference. And it really shouldn't. Does Owen kind of look like my cousin on this split screen? Kind of does. The deal looks like this. I see constant messaging. I'm a Trump supporter. What I never see anybody message is I'm a Trump policy supporter, or I'm a Trump idea supporter, or I support the Trump agenda, whether or not Donald Trump is actually carrying it out. That's where our fundamental disconnect is for the thinking critical audience and for the people that just want to say, I'm on team USA. I'm on team Donald Trump. I'm on team own the libs. If everybody that doesn't agree with you is suddenly like a leftard or a lib or a leftist or a Democrat, which I get called all the time. Guys, I am more right wing than almost anybody that you will meet. I don't think women should be able to vote because I think that women make bad decisions. I think that women, and this is just this is not a policy. This is just my personal opinion, right? You want to talk about this? I think that conservative women, if they're actually conservative, would shut their mouths and not be out there advocating for some other woman to be on the Supreme Court, which is something I just kind of poked Brianna Morello about this morning. That's how right-wing I am. Now, are those things likely to be done? No, they're not. But I want women to be able to stay home and do the things that I think are actually important, because I actually think politics is stupid. I think it's boring. I think it's a yawn fest. I think it's just the thing that might kill us. So I have to pay attention to it, but it's like a begrudging job. It's kind of like me going out and being like, I don't really enjoy mowing my lawn at all. There's no fun for me to fire up the lawnmower, which my wife can't do because it's a pull start, and then go and mow the damn lawn. I don't like it. It's hot. It's sweaty. It's boring. It's repetitive. I'm mowing weeds half the time because it's not my yard and I'm not spending a ton of money to like drop a bunch of weed and feed in there and make it beautiful, right? Like I'm not doing it because it's enjoyable. I'm not interested in politics because it's fun or because I like it even. It's a chore. And I don't want my wife to have to deal with that. And women, I don't want you to have to deal with it. That's how far right-wing I am, whatever that looks like, okay? I look back and I go, you know what? The original sort of advocacy of women on men, sometimes it needs a little pushback. Imagine if Adam was like, hey, honey, what did you just do? You just ate the apple? Didn't he just tell us not to eat the apple? He said the result is death. Let's just get that out of your mouth. We're going to pump your stomach. We're done with whatever that was. No any further. My wife occasionally has really, really thoughtful ideas that are really bad. And I'm like, hey, hun, no, we're not going to give money to your friend who is on her fourth baby with her third male partner and is homeless, even though she had a 7-figure settlement from a law firm because of some fake sexual harassment allegations. Your friend squandered like $2 million. We're not going to write her a check out of that. Like, we'll feed her. We'll make sure that she doesn't live on the street. More on that in a second, because the New Yorkers are not doing that. But like, all I'm saying is like, how about we support the principle and forget about the message coming from the actual person's mouth? Because if they're not living up to it, they're the problem. More from Owen. I know he's on the screen a while. Sorry.
So it's not, we're going to drop the foreign policy that's a disaster and we're going to get back to the things that we ran on that are populist and America First issues. No, we're not going to do that to save the midterms. No, we're not going to do that to rally and create momentum for 2028. No, you need to sacrifice your America First policies. You need to sacrifice the policies that you voted for the foreign interests and the special interests. That's what's being asked. And they say, you better sacrifice those policies or we're going to lose the midterms and we're going to lose the general. Right. No, you guys sacrificed those policies. We warned that would lead to multiple election cycle losses. Now you're just admitting it after saying, we don't need you, we don't want your vote. But let's just look at it at a policy basis. Instead of getting Doge cuts and arrests for $1 trillion of waste, fraud, and abuse every year, instead you're getting more foreign aid.
Right.
Instead of stopping the regime change wars and stopping the foreign entanglements, you're getting more regime change wars, more foreign entanglements. Instead of, with the Epstein files, arresting the co-conspirators, bringing in all the disgusting monsters that were a part of the Epstein network, instead you're telling us to move on and that it's a hoax.
That's how you lose. That is how you lose. You tell people, I know that I said this was important, but actually don't do what I said was important because that's actually not what's important. And if you dare to say that, then you're the problem. And that's not okay. That's not a winning proposition. Okay. This is why, and maybe it's just not being transmitted to the guy who theoretically, like, shouldn't Donald Trump have two things? I say this all the time. What is the point of having FU money? If you got $1 billion, like, is that not FU money? Like, how much money is FU money? I think $1 billion has got to be there, right? It might be for you that $5 million would be FU money. I don't even need that much before everybody that tells me to do something I'm not going to do gets an FU. But when you're a billionaire, can we not expect you to say FU at the right time? What's the point of having FU money if you don't know when to say FU? When? When does that happen? That's not to say that the alternative was better. That's not to say that, like, oh, like, anybody out there going like, well, would you rather have Biden? Would you rather have Harris? It's like, I'd rather you shut the hell up and stop being a blind follower of a person that's not doing a great job, who's saying things that are dumb and illogical, who's pushing a policy where he doesn't have the authority to maintain it. Trump retains the power to levy 15% tariffs. He can do for 150 days. You know what is supposed to happen? You're supposed to go to Congress. And if Congress is so aggressively broken, and I think that we've made a very clear point on this program for a long time that it is, like, the Congress has been ceding their authority since 1946 in the Administrative Procedures Act. When that was passed, Congress said, being Congress is too hard. We would like our guy to have access, whoever's in the White House, to run the show. So it's very frustrating to see both things. You can't pretend like you're going to solve the problem from the executive when you know that the problem doesn't exist there. And Trump keeps saying it too. He's like, I can't get the Congress to do the things they need. Right. Obama had the same problem. Every president has the same problem because Congress refused. How about we put it back on them? These are the principles. This is what the electorate demands. Make these things happen or lose office. Instead, they just make a promise and then act like we're freaking human goldfishes. So that's frustrating. Here's a fun little story that I think illustrates how bad and stupid things can be from the other side. So we should be fair about it. And it is stupid. New York City has a homeless population that is going to die in the storm that has been there. The snow looks epic, by the way, in the Northeast. Some of you guys can weigh in on that. I am literally in 90-degree weather, off and on. It'll be 50 degrees in the morning when I wake up here, and it'll be 85 when I'm out pedaling on my spin bike on the backyard. And then I look and it's like there's snow everywhere else. We're not even living in this. Our country is so vast and diverse when it comes to climate and just temperate zones that we are really disconnected. I cannot fathom living in a New York City. Having been there a bunch of times, my wife is from New York City, visited there. I used to have in-laws there, so we would go there fairly frequently. New York City is a foreign country. Looking at that picture of a homeless encampment with snow dusted and thinking that people are so out to lunch that they would actually live in that place and not try to catch a train to anywhere that's not there. That to me is beyond wild. But it kind of tells you that people do not make the best choices, especially people that live on the street. But a lot of people don't make the best choices for their own circumstances. The whole idea of like women not voting that I was kind of ranting about a minute ago, it's not really about women, guys. You guys understand that. It's a talking device. Even though I actually do believe that. Like, I'm not walking away from my belief there. But I'm saying that if you make bad decisions for yourself on a regular basis, there's a reason why our system was set up as it was. The founding fathers looked and were like, hey, a person is smart, but people, broadly speaking, are dumb. They make bad decisions collectively. So we should try to filter that so that we get the best possible decisions. Maybe we can make it harder for dumb people and people that have no skin in the game and people who have proven themselves incapable of doing other things. Like maybe we should put the people that have the most at stake in charge of the most resources. Maybe we do that. This story, Zoran Mandami said on Monday that his administration has taken lessons from the city's last storm, which, by the way, they effed up totally. Like they just absolutely screwed it up. When at least 20 people died from the cold. That's third world stuff. That is a third world nation situation. Just weeks after the last cold stretch left 20 New Yorkers dead or dying on New York streets, the city's homeless population is enduring another potentially lethal storm as the blizzard blankets the borough. Can we do it like Candace Owens? The borough. It actually is the borough there. It's not the bureau. The boroughs. With nearly 2 feet of snow and the temperatures are slated to drop into the 20s overnight, making the wind chill feel even colder. Yeah, that sucks. Again, Democrats make terrible decisions and they get in there by doing one thing really, really well. It turns out Donald Trump is kind of doing the same thing now. But here's an example of who I think might be president in 2029. And it won't be my fault. And it won't be your fault, most likely. It'll be the fault of the people that had a generational opportunity to flip a freaking U-turn in this country. And instead of doing it, and instead of even hitting the brakes, they just pulled their foot off the gas. So we've been slow coasting into more leftism and protecting pesticide companies and a bunch of other stupid stuff that kind of comes along with it. And we've kind of been doing these half measures where we're like, hey, we're going to tariff everybody that's not American. Just kidding. We're going to not tariff things if they hurt my friends' industries. Okay, just kidding. We're going to actually roll back all the tariffs except on the goods that we don't make domestically, which should have been the only thing we did in the first place. That's the right answer. The answer is if we don't make it in America and we need to import it, then you don't make it harder to buy. If we do make it in America, then you tariff it and you protect the American industry and you make things from overseas more expensive. I'm down with that. That makes sense. It sucks because like my favorite cheap Chinesium stuff will cost more money. But At least the American industry can compete, and hopefully, in theory, we would think that the American product is superior, and it should bring those prices in line versus slave labor. That's not what happened. So here's a little taste of what a President Newsom would look like. This is a significantly, maybe one of the most privileged white human beings in America. He has filthy amounts of money, and he has zero scruples. He's got no problem walking in front of a black audience and saying, "You're retarded. I'm kind of retarded too. I'm just like you. I'm a retard. I want you to understand that me same, you same." This is a classic. They use it in law enforcement. The classic thing is me same, you same. You say something like, "I'm from Philadelphia." And you're like, "Oh, what do I have connected? I have an uncle that lived in Philadelphia. I used to visit him all the time." And they're like, "Oh my God, you've been to Philadelphia? I've been to Philadelphia." You say me same. That's the tactic. Okay. You go into a room full of black people in Atlanta and you're like, "Listen, I think you're all dumb. I think that you all got less than 1,000 on the SAT. I also got less than 1,000 on the SAT. I'm also stupid." And then everyone's like, "Yeah, he said we're stupid, but we're all stupid together." Is that really the move? It turns out that actually is the move. By the way, I got a better SAT score than Gavin Newsom, if that's the case, when I was in 8th grade. That would be shockingly, ridiculously scary if he's the governor of California. It would also explain why they have the same homeless problem that they do in New York City. Here's Gavin Newsom saying, "You're freaking retarded, but I'm just like you. I'm also a bit retarded." I see the Willem Dafoe thing. It's like, "I'm something of a retard myself," right? Like, what the hell are we doing here? Anyway, this is who you might see in 29 as your president, who will be doing the impeachments and the prosecutions of the guy right now that's losing the opportunity.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. Maybe the wrong business to be in.
I'm going to leave him on the screen right there, and I'm just going to talk. Guys, he just told a bunch of black people in Atlanta that I don't think that you can read, and me same, you same is you're illiterate and you're borderline retarded. You're not as smart as an 8th grader who's a decent high performer. And you're adults. We're the same. The problem is that the minute he goes and sits next to a white audience, he turns around and is like, "Not only can I read, but I can read your book, which is 300 pages. And has an 11-hour audiobook. I can do that in 90 minutes. That's how amazing you are as a writer, but also how amazing I am as a reader who's so brilliant." You want to see this? Here's his podcast. This is why this person is very dangerous, because you're not going to see the left go out there and play him side by side. I'll just do it for you right now. Gavin Newsom, after telling people, "I'm a retard just like you," turns around and tells some writers, "I'm a great reader. And you're a great writer, just like me."
You've written a hell of a book, and I don't say that lightly. I went through it in a quick hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And trust me, I don't read very fast, but it reads at an unbelievable pace. It's so well written. And of course, it's so familiar because I felt a little bit adjacent to so much of the subject matter, but it's 18 chapters. It's an impressive piece of work, 263 or so pages,
Those people feel so good, by the way. They're sitting there and they're like, "Look how nice he is about our book." What did he do? He looked at the cover of the book. Let's do the odds on this one. He looked at the cover of the book, then he flipped through it, saw how many chapters were there in the table of contents so he could articulate that. And then he looked at like the total number of pages. Right? Does anyone think that he read the actual book? Because I don't. I think he's probably closer to the 960 IQ or the 960 SAT score. That's probably closer to true. But as you guys have here in the chat pointing out, we're living in the idiocracy. which is something I said right at the beginning. We are literally living where our politicians can come in and say, I got this 3-point plan to fix the economy. And people are like, yeah, the economy, we need to fix it for sure. Don't worry about what the details are. Here's some details coming from something almost exactly like that. And the other piece that you guys said in the chat, which makes me laugh too, is like, there's plenty of tards living kick-ass lives, man. Yeah. Don't worry, Scroat. I have that clip on my computer. We'll play it for the call-in show on Thursday night. Here is Carol Levitt telling you essentially, we've got this, guys. Not only are we doing a kick-ass job and you can live a kick-ass, you can be a pilot even if you're tarded. Not only that, but also there's some new stuff that's coming out. So stay tuned. I love the stay tuned administration. We've been staying tuned for the Epstein release, so you could go out there and collect the evil people that may or may not have been involved in drug trafficking or pedophilia or satanic child sacrifice or all the other things that are alleged within there, some of which I just don't know if they're true. And it would have been nice if, like, I don't know, an $11 billion investigative agency ran that down over the period of 15 years or whatever that they were running it. That would have been super cool. They didn't, apparently. Or if they did, they were probably aggressively hamstringed. We pointed out on Friday's show that when you have the Mossad, because you have the Israeli permanent security mission to the UN involved in physical security at an American citizen's house who has a bunch of like Israeli officials that hang out with them. The Mossad is involved, so the Israeli intelligence is there, which means the CIA is involved. It means the NSA is involved. It means the FBI is involved. It means that there's a bunch of people that are circling around it, and so we didn't get what we hoped we would get. Luckily, you're going to get these good things. Here's the White House spokeswoman saying how amazing everything is and how amazing it will continue to get. Reflect on this in light of what Owen Schroyer had to say earlier.
And of everyday Americans who are directly benefiting from his policies and making a few new policy announcements as well to continue tackling the affordability crisis that Joe Biden created 1 year ago. And the president will be talking about the positive metrics we have seen and moving forward towards making life again more affordable and prosperous for all Americans.
So that's going to.
So wait, are you saying that it's already affordable and more prosperous, or are you saying that you're on the road to it? Are you saying that this is difficult because you're fighting an uphill battle against a lot of bad policy for 4 years? That would be reasonable. At some point, you don't get to blame it on your predecessor. At some point, you just have to say, we're still fixing this problem. It's ongoing. We are going to set your expectations that it's going to take us another year. So I ask Americans to tighten their belt. Has anyone gotten the message from Donald Trump? Things are not going as easily as we hope they would, or I know things are tough. We're working on it. And then maybe more of, if he was a conservative, he would say, what we're doing is we're getting government out of your way. The problem is that we have a big government and we believe in small government. He's not that, right? Wasn't that the Ronald Reagan message? Didn't Ronald Reagan have the famous, whatever it was, 9 words or whatever? I'm from the government. I'm here to help. And the Republican position historically in my lifetime, which apparently has gone away, the Republican position used to be, we want to get government out of the way so we can unshackle the American economy, the American industry, the American mental engine of ingenuity that is able to do things that no one else can do because a free society will triumph over a controlled economy. It was literally left versus right, where left equals authoritarianism, communism, central planning, top-down management of the economy. And the right was supposed to be not fascism, not authoritarianism, but like free markets, laissez-faire, deregulation, cutting waste and fraud and abuse and spending. Like, in that used to be the fundamental divide. That was the fundamental divide 30 years ago, and we're not there. So now we have stories like this coming in from CBS. Trump's gearing up for the State of the Union. There are hints of frustration that are beginning to emerge among House GOP members. That's because they have to win races, and Donald Trump can't be elected again. For all of you people that think Trump's going to run in 28, I don't think so. Not only can he not hold office according to the Constitution, which theoretically he swore allegiance to, but also, like, it's just dumb. Donald Trump heads to the Capitol. He's going to deliver the State of the Union address before a joint session of Congress on Tuesday night, and he'll be greeted by raucous applause from his fellow Republicans on a host of different policy matters. This is the lowest form of theater that we do. It is the worst. This is the most Stalinistic sort of, I remember Ben Shapiro talking about it being the most monarchist thing that we have, where the king goes and addresses everybody and says how great he's doing. And everybody that's in his party is meant to stand and show solidarity. But the reception that he has will mask some of the discontent among GOP lawmakers who've been more and more willing to cross the president in recent months. The House Republicans have rebuked Mr. Trump in votes on tariffs, on war powers, and on Epstein files. Members with their own reelection hopes are looking to clash, and they have some politically unpopular policies because they're pointing out that the White House is out of touch with regular people. I believe this to be true. Here's my evidence. I'm going to show you the evidence. The evidence is actually in video format of Donald Trump's own words. I'll share that in 1 second. Right now, you may hear an ad from Spotify. Right after that, if you're watching on the video platform, will you give us a like over on Rumble? Will you do the same thing on YouTube? Will you subscribe to the channel? Share it with a friend, especially if it irritates you. If these ideas are frustrating to you, then allow yourself to be challenged and formulate a good answer to it. If you guys are listening and you're not watching, you may want to do so on KyleSeraphinShow.com. That's the website, KyleSeraphinShow.com. It's just a cheat code. It's a redirect that will take you over to Spotify, which is a free app, and you don't have to download it, but you get video and you get audio and you get comment options. You can follow us over there. And if you do have a Spotify account, again, for free, you'll get a better user experience in my estimation. I get a lot of comments from that about that. Otherwise, subscribe where you're watching. Make sure you guys have hit the like, whatever it is. And then again, leave us a comment. I like to read when you guys disagree. I like to agree things when you've thought of something that I have not. That's often the case because I have a limited amount of time and there's only so much that fits into my head at any given moment. I'm going to give you the video evidence right now. Here's what it looks like. Carolyn Levitt just told you everything's great. We know it's not. Donald Trump actually does know that it's not, but he doesn't like that it's not. So here's two back to back. One is from an episode that we showed you the other day. Interestingly enough, it's got Cyrillic captions, which means it's probably coming from some Russian propaganda online. That's okay. I recognize where it's coming from. I also recognize the words of the president are his own words. Here he is saying that the polling numbers aren't good, but they should be good because he wants them to be good. Not that they actually, he's not debating that they are actually not good.
I'm starting to get great polls on the economy, which I think
the polls on the economy aren't they're not great.
They should be great.
They should be. So why aren't they? If you believe that,
I don't know.
Well, that's not a great answer. And I actually think I do know. The answer is that you're insulated. And if you're insulated in the bubble, and it doesn't matter if you're the director of an agency and all the people in the agency are wrapping you up, or if you're the president of the United States and your cabinet and your advisors are wrapping you up and feeding you bullshit. They're like, hey, sir, I'm sorry that everything you've been doing is not working out, but the American people are not buying it. They want the principles that you ran on. They don't want some like BS people. They don't want personalities that look cool on TV. They need you to actually carry out the agenda. You gave them a 20-point agenda. They want to see you do it. They want to see mass deportations. That's the follow-up to shut down the border. Shut down the border is great. Day one, way to go, high five. Now is a new week. Now you need to get everybody out. There's 20 to 30 million people here that are driving up the cost of rent. We have our own White House counsel and staffers that are going out. We have people that are advising you, like Peter Navarro going on TV saying, if you add 1 million people, you move rent prices up by 1%. We need to remove 1 million people because we went up 20% under Biden. And we've only done a couple 100,000, so we're not getting it done, sir. That's why people are frustrated. If somebody said that to him, how long do you think they work for it? The one thing that I do know from watching Donald Trump over the last, 10 years, he doesn't seem to handle people who disagree with him. That is a fatal flaw if you are a politician. That is a fatal flaw if you are a leader of any kind. If you don't have a no man, for all the reasons, literally, if you don't have a red cell inside your decision-making process, you are freaking screwed. A red cell is someone that challenges every assumption. That's job it is to say, okay, you said this, and my job is to find the holes in it. He's the steel man. Do you have a steel man? My favorite interviews are with David over at the Viva Fry podcast. Why do I like it? Because he tries to steel man every argument. When I say something, he goes, okay, well, let me try to punch some holes in that. I'm like, please do it. It's great to have somebody do some checking of your math. If they can punch a hole in it, then you win. I do the no man thing for my wife. My wife doesn't do the no man thing for me as much. I have to actually no man myself, which is why I have other guys I call. I reach out to my dad. I reach out to my friends. I go, hey, gentlemen, am I out of my mind doing this thing? And they'll go, yeah, man, you might be. Or they'll be like, oh, that's a really interesting opportunity. Have you thought about this, though? And I go, oh, no, I haven't. We need people to tell us when we might be over our skis. Donald Trump doesn't have that. That's how you end up standing in front of a freaking red carpet saying this dumb shit. And this is really dumb. This is as dumb as anything that you'll hear Donald Trump say, And if nobody went out there and pulled him and said, sir, that ain't it. That's not landing with America.
And I had to go through, and I still do, fake stories, fake polls. I had polls for the election that showed I was going to get swamped, and I won in a landslide. They were fake polls because polls are tough. When you get a fake poll, I get them today. I saw one today that I'm at 40%. 40%. I'm not at 40%. I'm at much higher than that. I'd love to run against anybody. The real polls say you kill everybody. It wouldn't even be close. But you go through the fake polls, you go through the fake stories. And I said, it was good because this is really a much more powerful term than I would have had if I had run, because it was just one of those things. There would be nothing to compare it to.
Trump's State of the Union comes at a moment of his own making. We go over to the hard left and we look at what MS Now is telling their people. This is from their opinion pages. A news analyst piece from someone called Vaughn Hilliard. 100% true, though. How do we look at a man saying, that's not my polls. Like, I'm not polling at 40%. I'm polling it better than 40%. I'm not having shenanigans. I'm having penanigans. Like, what are you doing, man? Who's over there jerking you around and telling you that the numbers that you got are not the numbers that are real? Now, some of that may be the case, but you should have a reason for it, and you should probably know the answer to it. If you think the polls are wrong, then why are they wrong? And more importantly, you're the only one up there. That wasn't the answer to a question, folks. That was a rambling thought from an old man telling you, like, I don't like that people say they don't like me because I know that people like me because everyone around me likes me. People like Lindsey Graham like me. He's the best, that Lindsey Graham. He thinks that I'm better than Reagan. Reagan, who said we should cut government, even though I don't do that because I'm a 90s Democrat, and I actually think that growing government and blowing out spending and having the highest spending record in the history of the United States government is somehow, quote unquote, Reagan 2.0 or Reagan plus. Maybe you shouldn't be listening to someone like Lindsey Graham. Maybe you should get like the doughy boomer homosexuals out of your orbit and stop hanging out with sodomites if you want to act like you're an actual conservative. Maybe you don't need a fat boomer lady out there whispering whatever bullshit's going on in your ear so that you actually get an access to, hey, are normal people, the bacon cheeseburger nationalist types, are they frustrated with how poor my delivery versus my promises look? If I overpromise everything and I underdeliver, and then people say, hey, man, just holding you to account for your own freaking words, the unforced error of not living up to what you said, are you actually not accountable for that? And if you live in Donald Trump world, maybe that's the case. Maybe they come out there and they just fluff him on it. And they're like, oh, no, they just puff piece him. I can't imagine, because Donald Trump absolutely loves to be loved. He wants to be loved by MSNBC. He wants to be loved by the New York Times. He wants to be loved by Axios. He wants to be loved by the liberals. He wants Nancy Pelosi to give him a hug and say she's sorry. Man, like, you can tell that most of Donald Trump's beginning of his presidency, all he wanted was to get that. And he still wants it. He still desperately wants them to acknowledge he's great. It seems like he's never actually embraced the idea that these people are crazy that are on the other side. They're willing to go tell a black audience, you're retarded, and I'm also retarded. That's why you should vote for me. That's a wild moment. If you want those people to love you, why? When I see people that suck and they're like, I don't agree with you, I'm like, who cares? Like, you don't matter. How did you not know that you didn't matter? Donald Trump enters the House chambers on Tuesday night to deliver his State of the Union address. He'll do so amid the pronounced tensions between the executive branch and the two other branches of government in modern American political history. It's the most pronounced tension, the most. Yeah, that's probably true. Why? Because we are the most dysfunctional we've ever been. And we continue to get more dysfunctional every day. And instead of doing the U-turn, which is essentially what Make America Great Again promised, we're not doing it. Friction's been building for months, but it's been sharpened dramatically in the last few days, mostly by media pressure, I would think, but also because the reality of the situation is hitting people very hard. Trump berated 6 justices on the Supreme Court who ruled against his unilateral emergency tariffs, a significant legal defeat for the White House, calling those members of the High Court very unpatriotic and disloyal to the Constitution. The Article 1 powers for tariffs are pretty specific. The fact that they delegated it to the president for limited circumstances, it's not universal. They're probably right, which sucks. It sucks that they won't do their job. And if we're going to do protectionism, let's freaking do it. But Donald Trump doesn't run the Republican Party. So here you go. By custom, the justices who choose to attend the president's address will occupy the front rows in the chamber in 2025. 4 of them attended, and those who come Tuesday will take their seats just one day after Donald Trump renewed his public criticism of the court, which is dominated by Republican appointees, blah, 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 blah. You know what is really wild? My wife and I have been watching Highway to Heaven, which I didn't realize was filmed in the late 80s. It feels like the 70s. I think I've made that point here before. It feels like the 70s when you watch it. And there's a couple things that I think folks wanted. When they heard Make America Great Again, they didn't hear Make America White Supremacist Again, as the left was out there trying to say. And they didn't hear like Make America racist or bigoted or mean-spirited again. They wanted a return to the American values, to the American prosperity, and maybe the American hopefulness that used to exist. And if you ever want to go back and touch some time capsules, go find some shows that were made in the mid to late 80s and crossed into the 90s and just watch them. And watch them with a keen eye to who are the people that are the extras. And why are none of them so fat? Why are the old people there old and they're not made up and they're not full of Botox and they're not like, they look like regular people. They look like people you might go find in a Walmart that are shopping. My wife and I are constantly like, how is that person on television? It's really funny to watch. You watch him and you're like, whoa, that's a weird looking dude. That's just a regular person from regular parts of America. Go and see the stunning lack of obesity. And more importantly, the hopeful message that our fiction tried to convey to people. It tried to convey some sort of resolution. There was none of this like everybody's a gray hero, all people are anti-heroes, there are no good guys, there are no bad guys, everyone's just kind of shitty. They didn't do that. They were like, there's a villain, and they're doing things that are immoral, unethical, illegal. There's a hero who might be a reluctant hero, but they are learning that the things that are illegal, immoral, unethical are actually the way that screws up societal pressures. And sometimes it's just like a family show where it's like, oh, I have a bad character thing. There's something going on with me. I am not grateful or I am not able to see the blessings in my own life. And as I recognize them, then I have a better and better experience of being a human being. We watched one last night. There's a 2-part series on this, the first season, where they were talking about a handicapped kid. He was like a star jock, and he gets into a car accident, and he loses his 2 legs below the knee, and then he's all pissed off at the world, which makes sense. And he's all pissed off because he's pissed off the kid that hit him, even though it was his own fault because he was being a dummy on a motorcycle. And then he learns to be a champion again. And the dad learns that his son being a professional ball player is not the most important thing in the world. And everybody learns that sticking together with family and that you never had any challenges. And whenever you have a hard challenge, then maybe you should look to God and you should look to your fellow man and you should look to find out the blessings that you all had, right? Like, that's super uplifting. 1988. When people said, I want to make America great again, they were like, I want to feel better about being in my nation. How do we do that? And one of the biggest pieces of it was we shared common culture. And it didn't matter if you were black or you were white or you were Hispanic. And there were all kinds of those people all throughout this thing, even in the late 80s, which looks like the early 70s. Like there's almost no difference in style and the vehicle technologies and the stuff they were doing. And the houses are hideous and the wallpaper is disgusting and gross. And you look at it and you're like, ah! People lived so poorly compared to the way we do today. We live rich and our lives are still freaking empty. And Americans looked at what Donald Trump was selling under MAGA and said, I want that. I want it to be better. And maybe he believes it is. Maybe he does. I'm going to tell you, the people that are lying to him and the scumbags that are out there that are wrapping him up and telling him it's all better when it's not, I think they look like this guy. Again, if we're appealing to a Reagan era sort of feeling, and you tell Donald Trump that you're the new Reagan, and he believes it, and he thinks Tom Massey's the problem, we're really upside down. Enjoy some Lindsey Graham, folks. I've given you the trigger warning for it. Is that even, can I just do trigger warnings, even though it's kind of a lefty thing? Here, enjoy this.
If Trump can do this, if he can bring down Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran in 2026, that will be something bigger than Reagan.
Yeah.
I call Trump Reagan plus or Obama minus. You don't want to be Obama minus. Reagan plus. would mean that Donald Trump led the world and us to do away with the largest drug trafficker country in our backyard, Venezuela. Communist dictatorship's been a thorn in our side since the 50s. And the biggest prize of all is the most radical regime on the planet, Iran, with the Ayatollah.
All right, so he would be Reagan plus and not Obama minus if he could just go and depose a bunch of different countries and start a bunch of wars. The boner for war that Lindsey Graham has is always visual, throbbing, and pornographic. This bloodthirsty, doughy-looking, soft-skinned, unmarried boomer. Gross. Like, everything about that is gross. And for people to cheer that on, if you're looking at the president of the United States who said that one guy who's a legitimate, like he votes conservatively, he holds to conservative values, and he's doing what, let's call them libertarians who are Christians want to see. You don't even have to like the guy. But if Tom Massey is the problem and that scumbag is the good guy and gets the endorsement, do you know how screwed we are? Maybe you guys don't remember this. This was just before January. This was just after January 6th. This is when Lindsey Graham completely should have been cut off from access to Donald Trump forever.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. And when it's over, it is over. It is over. The final thing, Joe Biden. I've traveled the world with Joe. I hoped he lost. I prayed he would lose. He won. He's the legitimate president of the United States. I cannot convince people, certain groups, by my words, but I will tell you by my actions that maybe I, above all others in this body, need to say this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are lawfully elected and will become the president and the vice president of the United States on January the 20th. Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it to end this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that they didn't violate the Constitution of Wisconsin, I agree with the 3, but I accept the 4. If Al Gore can accept 5-4, he's not president. I can accept.
Trump can do this. If he can bring down Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran in 2026, that will be something bigger than Reagan.
Yeah.
I call Trump Reagan plus or Obama minus. You don't want to be Obama minus. Reagan plus would mean that Donald Trump led the world and us to do away with the largest drug trafficker country in our backyard, Venezuela. Communist dictatorship's been a thorn in our side since the 50s. And the biggest prize of all is the most radical regime on the planet, Iran, with the Ayatollah.
And if we could just get rid of Iran and the Ayatollah, then Israel, how's he say it? Israel is Izzruhl. Israel will be safe. Love that. And we're mad at Tom Massey because he, generally speaking, sits in the anti-war camp, which is a lot of the libertarian types. And not even just that he wants to not do war, but he thinks that the constitutional delineation of powers that the Congress is supposed to declare war. And so we should have war powers given to the president for pursuing specific actions instead of this sort of like ongoing authorization for military force and limited interactions. Like, that's all gross. Yeah, but he's a problem. That's why you'd go to a prayer breakfast and say he's always a no and he's also a moron. So remember, Lindsey Graham, good. Tom Massey is a no and a moron.
Is an automatic no. No matter what. If we did welfare reform, if we did the greatest thing in history for religion, no matter what we did, no matter how good it is, greatest tax cuts, and we just did the greatest tax cuts in history, he voted against. He voted. Now, no matter what we do, this moron, no matter what it is, we could put them all together. I think, Mike, what would you say the top 5 things? Name them. We'll put them in one bill, and we'll put them before we'll get 100% vote, except for this guy named Thomas Massey. There's something.
Yeah, and the best part of that no vote is that in those top 5 things, there'll also be one thing that is totally either blatantly problematic or something that no one else read. And he went like, oh, you want to do all the good things we want to do, but you also want to do this one horrible, stupid idea. You want to give, I don't know, you want to give the ability to sue some group to some group that shouldn't be doing it. It's always one thing they sneak in, the poison pill, right? And then you get all the Republicans go like, well, we need to fund TSA. We need to make sure the government keeps being government. The government that licks itself as an ice cream cone needs to keep existing. How else do we justify that we're here? So we're going to vote for it. Or worse, we have to vote for it because we don't even know what's in it. And we have to vote for it to find out what happens. Nancy Pelosi style. Do you think there's any difference between Nancy Pelosi doing that and watching the guy come in lying to us, Speaker Mike Johnson right now? Mike Johnson, who comes in and says, we're going to do no more minibuses. We're going to do no more omnibuses. We're going to do no more continuing resolutions. We're going to do what's fiscally responsible. We are going to individually pass bills so people can see transparently what it is that funds what, and that we're all going to individually get to have a say on it. And they're like, yeah, but then we can't pass all of our bullshit. And we can't sneak money in for foreign aid. And we can't do all the scam. We can't get rid of the $1 trillion worth of fraud, waste, and abuse. If you can see it, if you can see all the fraud and scam, how would we get the fraud and scam? Oh, well, we can't do what I said. But don't worry about what I said. We're doing an awesome job. Just ask us. Most transparent situation in history. We're going to go out there and complain about federal law enforcement. We're going to complain about government agencies. Then we're going to turn around and fund them at the full cost to the American taxpayer. And then we're going to fly around on private jets. We're just going to be like, whatever, peasants, pay our way. Don't you know that this is the golden age? Do you know how I know it's the golden age? Because I'm having caviar as I fly around on a freaking jet that is paid for by you with an amount of money that I could never afford on my own because I make $173,000, $175,000 a year. Why wouldn't I fly around in a $160 million jet or a $65 million Gulfstream? Why wouldn't I look at a bigger cabinet level position and think, they've got nicer jets than us. We should also buy nicer jets with somebody else's money. Turns out. Gross. All right. And what would it come down to? Imagine this. Imagine just for a second. Would anyone really be mad about people in government abusing the resources that they have, that they are meant to be frugal with and show responsibility with? Would we even be mad if they were kicking ass? If you went out there and de-weaponized our FBI, if you went out there and made, arrests of all the people that you were promising, you're like, look, we found the problem. The voting machines were rigged. The people that approved them were this. These are the people in the intelligence apparatus that were part of it. We named them all for years. We went on podcasts. We told you the description of the problem. We explained to you that we knew the issue. And then you voted for us. And then we got in there. And then we did jack and what? Nothing. We didn't do any of it. If the answer at the end of the day, as my buddy Steve Friend likes to say, is, and that's why we had to let the pedophiles go. If the answer is, we can't do it because, we need to win the midterms, then I'm out. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's not personal. I just look at you. I don't put my money, I don't put my time, I don't put my energy behind supporting people that are liars. If you lie to me, you're done. If you don't come to me and say, I lied, here's why, I'm sorry, I'm going to work to earn your trust back. If you just say, hey, everything is amazing, shut the heck up, stop being such a little whiner.
Of everyday Americans who are directly benefiting from his policies and making a few new policy announcements as well.
I don't need any new policy announcements as well. I don't need any policy announcements ever. Maybe when you have a cabinet that's staffed with a bunch of people that are sort of like moral derelicts, when they're multi-divorced, sodomites living with their freaking boyfriend, building children in somebody else's womb. They're single men that are running around the country and living like frat boys. Maybe when you have like a spokesperson who married someone like that's older than her dad because she's clearly got some sort of problem. Like if you just take all the people together and you were like, hey, could you have some people, are there some beautiful, wonderful people that have done some really weird things in their life? And you're like, that's not a choice I would have made. Yeah. What if you surround yourself by only those people? What if you found people that were like, I spent my whole life lobbying for foreign governments against Americans' interest, and now I'm going to be the voice of quote unquote America first in the White House. I'm a lobbyist. I took money from people and then I sold my opinion and my voice and I leveraged my influence on my friendships to be able to get outcomes for people who paid me money. And I didn't even believe in the positions. I lobbied on behalf of Qatar, or I lobbied on behalf of Israel, or I lobbied on behalf of fill in the blank country, Saudi Arabia, take your pick. I am the voice of America first, but I took money to make sure that America's interests were not being represented by politicians. Is that seriously the people you think are going to do the thing? Is it a wonder that the Epstein files have been withheld and have been redacted in ways that are completely illogical? No, it's not. A couple stories on that. This is from NPR. Justice Department withheld some Epstein files related to allegations about Donald Trump sexually abusing a minor. They're probably BS, by the way, for whatever it's worth. I don't know for a fact, but a lot of these quote unquote allegations, they came in from crazy people. But you shouldn't redact them. You should have done something that I advised a long time ago. It's not just about me, but I'm just saying it's really easy. Do transparency if you're going to do transparency. Give context. You're like, here's a whole list of files that came in from what's called NTALK. And when you get files from NTALK, crazy people who live on the streets in New York City and are freezing to death in Mondami's communist utopia, those people have access to cell phones. They call up the FBI 100 times a day, and then they say whatever batshit crazy things come to their head. And they're like, look, here's the problem. The aliens came in and put an anal probe in, and the anal probe actually has a voice box in it that resonates in my left ear only, not my right ear, because in my right ear I can hear the voice of God, but in the left ear I hear the aliens telling me the secrets of the universe, and those secrets told me that Donald Trump ate a child and buried them, the bones in some place. And you're like, awesome, thank you. And you're the FBI person that's sitting there in West Virginia, you're typing all this crap up, and then you send it off. Imagine getting that, and you're like, here's all the unsubstantiated crazy people that we took in from NTALK. We're going to do it and share it with you because the files should be in transparent format. But we want you to at least understand where the hell they came from. They came from a crazy person who lives on the streets of New York and is going to freeze to death in Mondami's next big blizzard. Or you could try to hide it, and then people will find it, and then it'll look really, really weird. For those of you that said that was an oddly specific use case, I used to be a paramedic. That is a combination of multiple crazy people. There are all kinds of really well-meaning people that are off their meds, and they're all over the map. And rather than doing the compassionate thing, which is like having community and church and having people go out and reach out to them, we think government will handle it because we think government is the solution, because in 2026 America, we've outsourced compassion and charity, and we think that it should be mandated at the IRS. That's how it works. So, myself included, I'm like, you're taking my money that I would otherwise use to help people. You're digging into my pocket before I even get paid. And so how on earth would you expect that I'm going to be able to do the things that I want to do? By the time we keep the lights on at the church, what's left? For a lot of people, it's not very much. They're worried like, well, what happens next? What crazy thing may happen to me? What about when my job tells me that you must put on a mask, put something up your nose, and by the way, we're going to inject this crap into your bloodstream, or you won't have a living and you'll never work in this industry again, which was my experience. And many of you in the healthcare industry, in public safety, in firefighter EMT types, emergency medicine, like tons of you. And then not to like anybody that had a company with more than 100 people. You all experienced that crazy stuff. Some of the files have not been made public despite a law mandating their release. This is the problem with not doing the release properly. They had a whole year to do it right, and they still screwed it up. And Dan Bongino was there when it happened. I just sent this over to one of our Congress people the other day, but let me just show it on the screen. You guys remember this? Here, I can actually zoom in. Who is this? This is Shannon Perry, okay? It's at the bottom of the screen. Shannon Perry, the assistant director of information management. Sorry, I have to like scroll it down. It's hard to get it on this particular screen. And then what is it all about? Oh, it's about redactions for the Epstein files. This is March 18th of 2025. Who was this email sent to on how we're going to use it? Are we going to use the standard Von index coding PDF number 1? It was sent to Daniel J. Bongino, DO, Director's Office. Number 2 in the entire FBI. If you think that the Epstein redactions got redone after they spent hundreds and thousands of man hours on this thing? The answer is, of course, they did not. So they just went with what they had, and they screwed it all up. And it makes it look like now you get NPR headlines saying that the Justice Department is trying to make Trump look like he didn't do something that he did. I don't think he did it. You know what else is in there? Apparently there were drug trafficking charges because there's DEA files. So now we need an Epstein Transparency Act about the DEA and also about the CIA and also what they had at NSA and also at the rest of ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence. We're going to keep pulling on this. It's not going away. Do you know why? Because at the end of it, everyone has this belief that we've got a real serious problem with pedophiles and government corruption and two-tiered law enforcement and people who have access to money and power that don't actually have to play the accountability game that normal Americans would. Boop. That's what it all comes down to. But tell me more about how great things are and that you're going to introduce some new policies that are going to help the tariffs not cost a ton more money when I go buy things that are outside of the United States. Because I need stuff like, I don't know, coffee. We don't make it in the U.S. The coffee tariffs were really dumb. They cost us a sponsor here because they couldn't afford it. The margin wasn't high enough. There are $100+ billion that got charged. Was that enough to get rid of the IRS? I would have signed off of that in a heartbeat. How many of you would be fine? It's like, look, coffee's more expensive. Buying things that come from Chinese costs more money by 10 or 15 or 25%. I get it. But we don't have an IRS anymore. So my life is way better. Nope. And they're still going to take Social Security, and they're still going to take Medicaid or Medicare from you. Boop. They're going to take your pocketbook, they're going to take it, and they're going to write themselves the check out of your account before you ever get to it still. So that's still a problem because we're not addressing root causes. We're not saying, hey, Congress, do your flipping job. Roll back the clocks before 1946. We're not looking back at the United States Constitution and saying, you know what? Those people in the 19 teens, they had some really crap ideas. They let women vote, and they gave us a central bank, and they decided that somehow we shouldn't have our state houses represented. So the states were like neutered in the Congress with the 17th Amendment, and they also decided the federal government should be more important than the state, and they gave us the 16th Amendment because they thought we were going to be able to only tax rich people. And all of you who pay taxes, you're the rich people. You think if you'd gone back in 1913, you could tell them, hey, when they say they're going to tax rich people, they mean people who make a paycheck, all of you, and you're going to be slaves in 100 years. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So none of that's really good. It doesn't make me feel good about any of this stuff. Meanwhile, luckily, we've solved crime in Washington, D.C. We'll get to that in just one second here, because Jeanine Pirro, my favorite, the one who wants to grab your guns if you have the wrong piece of paper when you go to Washington, D.C., she also lets you know that crime is there. The golden era, again, celebrating victories before you can even... Does anyone think that crime is solved in Washington, D.C.? Poverty's still a problem, so I guarantee you crime is. There is 0% chance that I couldn't take Jeanine Pirro to a place in Washington, D.C. where she wouldn't last one hour dressed like she is. So I'll play that in a second here. Before we get there, guys, like the video if you're watching live. If you are listening and you haven't given us a comment over on any of the platforms where you can do that, if you're not listening on Spotify, you should. You may hear a Spotify ad. Subscribe to our channel, both on Rumble and YouTube, if you can do both, because then we can grow. In case somebody decides to kick us off, or in case Jesse Waters pops in and has some weird thing to say to me that I wasn't ready for. Here's Jeanine Pirro. She's not going to go after the Congress people, by the way. They've just decided to shelf that. Remember, they were going to go after all the deep staters, but then they decided not to go after the deep staters. Their words, not mine. They were going to go after people in Congress because they were the traitorous or the seditionist six. They were all former military members that were making all these sort of like videos talking about how you should disobey unlawful orders. You should disobey lawful orders. If they're unlawful, you shouldn't do them. You should disobey unlawful orders. We know that the military won't. So anytime that somebody, whether I agree with them or not, wants to remind people that unlawful orders are still unlawful, you know, like the kind that the Biden administration put out on the military or on the civilian groups. Yeah, you're not supposed to obey those. Or you could cheer on like this amazing moment where Jeanine Pirro is going to let you know that we've solved crime in D.C. It's safe. Book your trip. Take your kids. Come check it out. You probably missed the, you can get there in time for the cherry blossoms. Walk around the National Mall. Don't go to Southeast or Anacostia, though. You'll definitely get shot. And there may be poop in the river. It may smell like poop, but everything is okay now.
Hi, everyone. Here I am in D.C., and I'm right outside the White House. And I'm here to tell you that the era of unchecked violence is over. Right now, we've made over 10,000 arrests, taken more than 1,000 guns off the street. 52 gang members are now in prison. And life in Washington is a lot safer than it was, and that's because of President Trump's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. My job is to prosecute those cases, and we've been doing that. In fact, there are only 10% of the cases that we don't prosecute, or as my predecessor didn't prosecute, 60% of the cases. And since it is safe and beautiful now, it's time to come to D.C. I'm not a travel agent, but this is the time to visit the nation's capital.
Fox News, Boomer Slop. Do you guys want some slopaganda? Come visit D.C. for some reason. Unknown. Yuck. Nobody believes that nonsense. Kind of like the pre-programmed responses I'm seeing to something that was objectively disgusting and stupid and gross and a waste of our money. You know, we talked about it yesterday. I didn't want to sit there and fixate on it, but I can't help that it's like all over my social media feed and it's nonstop. This is the NPR take on it. The FBI director invites fresh scrutiny over his travels and his appearance to the United States men's hockey celebration. You know, because we want to have a bunch of celebrities that are also bureaucrats. If you're a celebrity bureaucrat, then the Trump administration is going to push you out. Oh, what does that kind of remind you of? It reminds you of, I'm a Trump supporter. I love personalities, and I don't care about policies, and I don't care about principles, and I definitely don't care about outcomes. If only there was that guy, I feel like he was like one of the colleagues of this dude on the screen who used to say something about, don't fall in love with politicians, fall in love with outcomes. Saw this video, and I think it sums it up really well. There's a big push right now to set people up with programming. And there's a huge problem with Americans that apparently are too dim to realize that they are getting fed garbage and they want that garbage. And they know that once they've been primed to say anybody who disagrees with my people or the approved messaging is the problem, this is how I end up with a feed or a bunch of emails. I get emails every day or DMs saying, kill yourself, like you're terrible. It's like, come here and try it. How about that? How about I'm more right-wing than any of you? I have more guns than you have friends. I've got more ammunition in my garage than you've ever shot in your whole life. I got more kids than most of you do, which is not that many, it turns out, because if you look back into the 80s, that was like normal. And I tell people this all the time. They're like, oh my God, four children. I'm like, I would have more. I would. I started too late because I had some pretty bad ideas from living in the time that I did. But I would love to have more kids. And why are people acting like that's a lot? It's not that many. Like, they just fill up my dinner table. I got 2 on the left and 2 on the right, and my wife at the end. Like, that's not that many. I'm more right-wing than you are. People who get mad at me. Meanwhile, I can tell they're programmed, and they're catching this like, I know what the right answer is because my guy is being attacked, so I've got to defend it. Here we go.
Hey, guys, how you doing? So if you're more upset that some of us are questioning why this guy goes in and hijacks the moment from the Olympians for his self-glorification because he knows that his approval rating is next to nothing right now because he doesn't know how to do his job, you might have just been programmed perfectly. What I mean by that is this: if you're finally using your voice of outrage at people like us instead of this administration that's protecting baby-eating pedos, you might have just been programmed perfectly. If you think that by me highlighting that this guy just came in and hijacked this moment from these people while not doing his job was the worst thing in the world, that I'm the worst guy in the world, you may have just been programmed perfectly. If you don't think that they did this intentionally to get the average American who loves sports, who love the Olympics, who love America, to get them defending this current administration, you've been programmed perfectly. I just had somebody who's been following my channels for a long time saying that I'm controlled opposition. If you think that I'm controlled opposition and not this guy who has lied to the American people over and over and over, especially on the Epstein stuff, you may have just been programmed perfectly.
That's it. If you're sitting there and you think that the problem are the people that are calling out the bad thing, if you think Owen Schroyer is the issue, it's probably you. Just saying. You want to see something else pretty gross? Because I saw a bunch of MAGA type sycophants like on social media saying that this quote unquote is amazing. And people, including people that I actually know in person and like, because they're programmed perfectly. This is the FBI director's girlfriend, which is how she's always identified, not by her name because no one knows who she is. Nobody knows what her songs are because no one's ever heard her songs because she never actually has recorded singing her songs. And this is basically like a crappy version of live karaoke. Do you guys remember the song that was being played in the locker room while Kash Patel was blasting beers and spraying them all over people for a gold medal that he didn't win? Do you remember that? It was a Toby Keith song. Now, would you be shocked to find out that the girlfriend of the same guy who was in that locker room listening to that song decided that I should go and do a live karaoke version where the band overplays my vocals because I'm not good at singing? That she decided to play a Toby Keith song on stage to do her celebration of the men's hockey team victory, and it's identical to the actual celebration that was going on in the locker room. Is that weird? Is that just me? Enjoy this little moment. You won't be able to hear many vocals, but luckily for you, you won't hear very many vocals. I'm a big fan of karaoke. I like when girls who have not been in the military, are not married to somebody in the military, have zero connection to the military, decide to wear like well-fitted camo pants and blouse their boots. Guys in the military don't get to wear tank tops and wife beaters like that, turns out. But that's what they think it looks like. How about a double eagle as your belt buckle? That's tough. Yeah, same as what we showed yesterday. Same exact freaking song. That was the country music sensation doing it. Here's the bro doing it.
Breaking exclusive.
Nothing for nothing. I'd rather hear the Team USA men's hockey team do it without the director of the FBI there. That would have been just fine. I think that would have been a totally reasonable thing. People get psyched up. I got no problem with that. The problem is that he took a private jet that we paid for. And again, that's why there's fresh scrutiny. And that's why we're hearing about it on NPR. And that's why my freaking DMs are blowing up from people that are on the political left that want to talk about it. And they're like, hey, what do you know about this? You know what? I wasn't going to do this, but I'm actually going to grab a quick website for you guys. I've been on this. Some of you guys may be new to our channel here, so allow me to help you out real quick. I don't want to be a jerk, but this is kind of my beat, people, okay? This is kind of my thing, talking about this problem. Let me go back in time for you. This is January of 2023. We're going to do a couple of little retrospectives why this is an issue. FBI Director Chris Wray. Do you guys remember him? You remember if you'd seen Chris Wray spraying beer on an Olympic hockey team and wearing a gold medal, even though he's like that FBI director dude that we don't like? Remember if he had done that, or if Jim Comey had been there? You would be freaking outraged. You'd be programmed perfectly to be completely flippin' outraged. Just like people were outraged by the story that Brandon Dre wrote in January of 2023. And by the way, I'm prominently quoted because I gave him the story. Chris Wray summons Bureau jet to Washington, D.C. to dodge traffic. Who said that? Whistleblower. Who's the whistleblower? The guy on the screen with you right now. When FBI Director Chris Wray wants to use the Bureau's $60 million Gulfstream 550, he summons it to a nearby Reagan airport instead of being driven the 30 miles to the regional airport where it's kept, a whistleblower told the Daily Wire. That's me. Records obtained by the Daily Wire show the jet has made the trip roughly, the 15-minute trip, 140 times since 2020. The FBI jet is being used, I believe, in a grossly mismanaged way. FBI agent Kyle Seraphin, who was suspended from the Bureau last year, told the Daily Wire Chris Wray has a jet fly from Manassas, Virginia, to Reagan National Airport because he does not want to sit in traffic. The security detail inside the Bureau told Seraphin that the Gulfstream jet has been picking up Chris Wray, who moves around D.C. in a motorcade of 3 black Chevy Suburbans. This is really specific inside stuff, isn't it? From the Reagan years. From Reagan National for years, possibly since the congressional members confirmed him as Bureau Director in 2017. They were able to find at least 140 trips between Manassas and the larger regional airports. 124 were to or from Reagan, which is the largest airport next to the Pennsylvania Avenue FBI headquarters. Okay, this is my beat. This is my thing. When I talk about it, it's a problem. You want to know why it's also a problem? Because there's this dude Some of you guys maybe remember him. He's now the FBI director. He was just spraying beer on the screen a second ago. That dude sat and had dinner with me in January of 2023, probably within a few days of that story going live, or maybe just before it. Literally within maybe it was the 22nd we sat and had dinner, and the 26th the story goes out. We sat down, had the conversation, and I'll tell you where we had it. Stand by. I'll bring this over too. I wasn't going to just put all this stuff. I had this all sitting in the background. Here's where we had dinner, guys. This is, I don't know if this is receipts, but this is the testimonial fact. I sat at Carbone, which is the hotel Italian restaurant in Las Vegas at the Aria Hotel. We went to the top of Aria. I can show you where on the floor plan we sat. And as we sat there were 3 people at the table with me. Mike Muldoon, who's a GOP billionaire that gives a bunch of money. Kash Patel, who's now currently the FBI director, abusing the jet we talked about. And the other guy was the owner of a gun company, and I'm not going to blast his name out there because it's not relevant. He was a super nice guy, though. I really liked him. I thought he was a super high-quality human being. Probably the best person at the table. And so as we sat there and had this conversation at Carbone, where they brought out a special table because the owner knows Michael Muldoon, and the chef came out and gave him a hug, and the girls that wait there with the boobs pumping out of their dresses or whatever were all hugging him to get their tips. We had a conversation about jet use and how much it costs. And that's where he got the facts, the dollar amounts, because Michael Muldoon owns his own Gulfstream. It's just smaller than the FBI's Gulfstream. And he knows how much it costs. And that's why Kash Patel did this famous video with Glenn Beck in 2023.
And I'm not saying take all their funding. I'm not the defund everything guy. I'm just saying Chris Wray doesn't need a government-funded G5 jet to go to vacation. Maybe we ground that plane. $15,000 every time it takes off. Just a thought.
Minimum.
And that's Glenn Beck's voice in the background saying minimum. So before he got there, he had ideas. He also went out there and was talking about this situation very recently, and he was trying to say that he's different somehow, but he's not.
We're not the guys running around on private jets. And somebody maybe in Congress should ask for how many flights on a private jet Director Comey took, or my predecessor Director Wray took, and how many personal trips they took.
I mean, here's the problem. We covered this. We covered this story, and the reason that it got so much coverage is because it's blatant hypocrisy. And people in America, in addition to wanting things to be like they were back in the day when people were less fat and people were nicer to each other and the TV had better messaging and we had sort of shared values in this country and culture, and we wanted smaller government if you're on the political right, we also really hate hypocrisy. We despise it. That clip was from May 28 of 2025 while he was the FBI director. And right after that, John Solomon, I should go find the freaking, hold on, I'll just find it while we're sitting here talking. Sorry, guys. How about just the news? Oh, perfect. I think I've actually got it. Is this the story? Nope, it's not. One second. Just the News did a whole piece on the flights and the number of jet trips he took. Plane use Patel. I should have had this ready. I did have it the other day. Where's my Just the News? I may not be able to find it. It found that basically Jim Comey used it the most, Kash Patel used it the second most, and Chris Wray actually used it less. I'll put it in the show comments for those of you who are watching over on YouTube or watching over on Rumble. You guys will see that. If you're watching on Locals, you get the same thing. Quick self promo. Follow us on Spotify. We'll play a Spotify ad. KyleSeraphinShow.com. That's how you get there. Let's not do too much more on that. Okay. So remember, there was this huge scandal. Do you guys remember the timeline? Let me just run it back for the people in the chat. I'll put the chat on the screen. Here's the timeline. I pointed out Kash was using the jet in a very hypocritical fashion after saying that we shouldn't be using it. We also pointed out that the pilot that was flying said jet was one of the people that was on Arctic Frost that was involved in the investigations against Trump. They fired that guy. His name's Chris Myers. Chris Myers. Okay? So then they had to distract from that scandal. And what did they do? They announced that the FBI whistleblowers were all being reinstated. But they really just meant the people that were working for Empower Oversight, which is just this goofy little group that plays ball with Chuck Grassley's office so that we can make Chuck Grassley look good. And then they didn't reinstate those guys for well over 100 days. They let back in Garrett O'Boyle, which is great. I'm happy to see Garrett's back in the world. They hired and fired Steve Friend. They didn't pay them their back pay until a couple of days ago. They spent months and months. Imagine you went for years without pay from a job. And then your company owed you back pay, and then they took like more months, like 4 months or 5 months to be able to pay back, even though they were required to pay you not just that, but also interest. So now they owe the American taxpayers dollars to Garrett for interest. Oh, Steve Friend, interest on the hundreds of thousands of dollars they didn't pay them over the years. You get that? That's why they did that whole thing. That's why they announced something, and he didn't even keep up his end of the bargain on that. So as I watch this and I see him out in Las Vegas, I'm like, dude, you're a scumbag. And you know you're a scumbag. And everybody who's watching knows that you're a scumbag. You can't convince me otherwise because you're doing scumbaggery. And so let's do the mashup. Let's just play it right here. Guys, one, this is kind of a banger because I really like the way that the beat hits in the background. And yeah, I mixed this together. It's a little bit of a long clip, but you're going to get a full sense of why people should be pissed. And also, tune it up. Hit your bass. Put your subwoofers on.
And the only reason I took this job was because my business acumen sucks. All these guys have their own private jets, so the only way I was going to get mine was becoming the director of the FBI. And I believe it.
Last time you were here, you had to leave early to take a jet to your vacation in the Adirondacks.
I'm just saying Chris Wray doesn't need a government-funded G5 jet to go to vacation. Maybe we ground that plane. $15,000 every time it takes off. Just a thought.
Minimum. And G5. Yes.
Now, let me just ask you this. Whistleblower tells us that you use the FBI jet to make that travel. Is that correct?
All of my travel, personal or work-related, is required to be done on FBI planes. That is long-standing policy, goes back well over a decade.
Well, this is a great point. Do you know why I have to use a private jet? Because Congress made it mandatory.
And G5. Yes.
You were rightly critical of the way that the previous FBI director used the FBI jet.
A G5 airplane. Yes.
The whistleblower also says that you pay only the lowest cost commercial ticket for that Atlanta to DC trip, which is, I don't know, what, $200 or something? When, of course, it costs $20,000, $30,000 to operate the jet. Is that correct?
The reimbursement that I provide is reimbursement that is set by OMB policy, and I follow that policy, which goes back over a decade.
I pay the commercial equivalent per the regs and the law.
No more frequent flyer bitch miles from my boy.
You wanted to ground Chris Wray's private jet travel that he pays for with taxpayer dollars to hop around the country.
Yeah, you want to know the difference? I live in Las Vegas. I'm allowed to go home. I didn't leave a congressional hearing early on an FBI jet to dodge questions.
A G5 airplane.
The whistleblower also says that you regularly require the jet, which is based in Manassas, to be flown to DC because, and I quote now, Wray doesn't like to sit in traffic.
Yeah, and what I've done with the use of the private jet is use Andrews Air Force Base versus Reagan National. That's what the other directors have done
Bottom line
to
here,
save the taxpayer dollars.
A G5 airplane. Yes, and lots of money.
On the following weekend, you attended a UFC fight in Miami, also on the FBI jet, right?
That's correct.
By the way, everyday FBI agents who are assigned in Washington don't get to fly home on a private jet.
G5.
So are you telling me that FBI agents who are assigned in Washington, but who may live in Charlotte, they get paid by the FBI?
Sometimes they do, yes.
Right.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
Okay. He did go full retard. And again, his buddy tried to cover for him. This is from November of 2025. His buddy is John Solomon, the Just the News. I found the clip, or I found the article for you guys, so this will be in the comment section. Cashback. FBI boss Patel's jet use is on par with his predecessors, but his changes are saving the taxpayer money. Do you see that bullshit slant? Do you know what he said? Rather than take that trip out to Manassas, where we would go, because that's where the jet is, we let the jet fly to a better airport than Reagan. I have it fly to Andrews Air Force Base, and that's why I'm better. So instead of it costing like an extra $2,500 when it lands there, we save $2,500 per trip, but it still costs us like $15,000 for us to do that trip for no reason. You guys want to read the part that actually is really funny? It's right here. I'll scroll down. We get down to the numbers. Where are these numbers that say how often people fly? It's right here. Overall, the logs show that Comey, was the most prodigious air traveler, averaging roughly 2.58 flights per week, compared to Patel at 2.48. So a 0.1% difference. It's it's less than 5%. It's like a 2.5 to 3% difference in flight usage weekly. And Ray did roughly just less than 2 flights per week because he used to fly home because he didn't move into that place in DC either. You know what the difference between Chris Ray and Kash Patel is? Chris Ray lived with his wife in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta. So he used to fly down to Georgia, which I criticized, and that was my job. Kash Patel flies to go hang out with Michael Muldoon's house because he's not married, and the country music sensation lives in Nashville. So he flies to a house that is rented from another man in his 50s, which is super weird. And by the way, if you guys rewind and watch that clip, the first moment where he's talking about, I didn't have the business acumen to earn a jet, so I had to become the FBI director. All my friends. Mike Muldoon is in there in the background wearing olive green pants and a gray turtleneck because his buddies with private jets were in the flipping room. And that's why he uses it all the time, apparently. And by the way, when he got in trouble for using the jet, what did the Trump administration do? They sent him on the jet to go to Scotland to go hang out for no reason. Nobody knows who went or why. He just went on a week-long vacation. Then he flew back here. Then he went to the country music sensation to go watch her sing. Then he flew down to the Boondoggle Ranch. Go back and check that episode as well. We did a whole thing on it. Then he fired a guy who was involved in Arctic Frost, and then he promoted another guy who was involved in Arctic Frost and was promoted by the guy from Arctic Frost. So anyway, Kash Patel is a freaking dummy. And if you have a dummy doing dumb things, maybe the one thing you could do is get another dummy to come out and run cover for him. I'm about to show you some of the dumbest Fox News slopaganda made specifically for people that are perfectly programmed and have not been paying attention. Here's Dan. Did we just lose feed? I think we just lost the feed. So for those of you who are watching and just saw the scene cut, yeah. If you guys are just coming back to us right now, I just watched the screen go black. Looks like we're going to have internet problems because I'm talking about Dan Bongino. Go freaking figure. Anyway, watch it over on Spotify. Here you go.
No, Dan, and the left is so pathetic in so many ways. Team USA wins. Huge celebration. We already talked about it with Boomer Esiason. I'm still like crying in tears of joy for beating the Canadians. Incredible. Yeah. And now the only thing they can say is, oh, Kash Patel was celebrating with the athletes. How dare he celebrate with the athletes? I want you to tee off on that.
Yeah, well, listen, Kash loves the USA, loves hockey, and I guess he loves beer. I don't know. I thought he was a bourbon guy. But if this is what you're going to melt down about, Laura, listen, I probably did about 10 or 15 meetings about Olympics planning. The left doesn't know this, but the Summer Olympics are coming up in this place called Los Angeles.
He just said I probably did 10 or 15 meetings, right? Or whatever number he said about the Olympics. Do you know why he did? When did Dan leave? Oh, he left at the beginning of January, which means he was done doing work in November and he was on terminal leave, which means Dan was doing those meetings how long ago? 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, maybe, right when he got in. More on that in a second.
It's in the United States. You may have heard of it. So the FBI has a significant footprint in the security planning. So for him to go over there and take a look at what's going on in Milan, what they're doing about drones, UAPs, and other things.
Did he just say UAPs? By the way, UAPs, guys, is government code for aliens. Drones and aliens. This guy's a fucking disaster. I got to do better. Sorry. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
We had about 15 meetings on this myself, and then he goes to a game at the end, and they invite him in a locker room, and he pops a brewski, you know.
A brewski?
Keep crying, man, whatever. Tell your story walking. Doesn't bother me. I don't give a damn. Let him have a good time with the
He owns you. He's the slop father. He owns it.
Team.
I feel bad for Laura Ingraham because she's actually smart. She really is. She's one of the better interviewers. But being told, hey, go out there and slob the knob of this loser and go out there and normalize his bullshit bad behavior and like go out there and make him look like he's regular when everybody knows what he just did and the hypocrisy. It's not the problem of the beer, you dummies. It's not the problem that he was even in the locker room. It's why was he on the plane in there in the first place? Do you know what you made me do? Dan Bongino, you made me agree with Andy McCabe, who I think should be in prison because he's actually right. And apparently he's smarter than all of you guys. And apparently he actually knows what makes real sense. Listen to Andy McCabe, which is a gross thing for us to have to do. But he makes the very clear point that all the planning for security and the safeguarding of American athletes and making sure that the UAPs, the freaking aliens and the drones, we're not going to go strike everybody. They were all done months and months and months ago. You know, like back when Dan Bongino worked for the FBI. And they don't need to be done on the last day of the game so you can go and celebrate with Team USA. I literally have to believe that Andy McCabe is doing a better job talking about this. Gross.
Do you think Director Patel partying with Team USA in Italy was appropriate? And what do you make of the FBI's explanation for why he was in Italy? You've certainly taken meetings around the world.
Yeah, I mean, the video is ridiculous and was completely inappropriate for him to be engaging, to go at all. Let's be honest. The excuse that he had to go for security meetings the day before the games are over is patently ridiculous.
He didn't need to go for security reasons the day before it was over. The end.
Director Mueller once traveled to Greece to consult with partners on the security arrangements for the Greek Olympics 8 months before the games began. That's when the sort of details and arrangements are made that an FBI director needs to weigh in on to make sure that others understand the role of the Bureau and those sorts of things. It's not the day of the final hockey game. And of course, now we know exactly what he was doing there. Horrible, horrible message to the FBI rank and file. It's absolutely, I'm sure that this video is coursing through that population today, and a horrible message to the country when the FBI is in the middle of such incredibly important investigations, everything from the notorious kidnapping, now on its 4th week, of Nancy Guthrie, all the way to...
All right, now you lost me. Whatever. Let me tell you what the general sentiment is from FBI regular agents.
Già troppa frociaggine.
They are disgusted by the frociaggine. Okay? So let's finish up with the very important notorious kidnapping, because it was in our thumbnail, so I will address it here. Guys, you probably know that the FBI is cracking the case. There may be one photo of Nancy Guthrie's porch that is from an earlier date than before her disappearance, which means that somebody who was dressed like the somebody who was wearing the backpack on a different day may have been there surveilling the house while wearing a costume. And all of that is to say that they've basically almost wrapped this case up.
Fox News alert, we just got the backpack. This is the brand the suspect was wearing the night Nancy Guthrie was kidnapped. A black...
Okay, that's actually not where the big issue was. It's not that the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping is going in. She's likely dead, rotting in the desert, or she's probably in Mexico in pieces, unfortunately. I'm not trying to be callous. I'm just saying, like, the reality of it is that a woman who has a heart condition that was abducted 4 weeks ago, she's freaking way gone. Way, way, way gone. Who knows what it was? I'm just saying.
Fox News alert, we just got the backpack.
Oh, sorry. The slopaganda just hit me again. I wasn't looking and it came out. Here's the deal. The real story is that there's a drug war going on in Mexico right now where cartel members are getting into shooting matches with the government. There's stories in the New York Times. I'm going to clip it because I'm actually not going to cover it too much today, but you can read this New York Times article, and I have an archive version. So if you want to read it, you can actually read it without having to pay for the New York Times, which is nice. Top security officials said that they actually were able to follow the drug cartel leader's lover. Let that be a lesson to those of you who have quote unquote lovers, whatever the heck they're talking about, right? Anyway, they hunted him down, mission accomplished, and then the result was that the drug cartels decided to start like aggressive violence all over the place, taking over airports. We showed you some of that yesterday, and that seems like that'd be a real critical thing for the FBI director to be worried about, because that could actually fall over the top of the border. At the end of the day, does the FBI director do any investigations? Nah, they do not. Should they be injecting themselves into the last day of the Olympics and pretending that there's somehow an official duty that's involved in that? No, they should not either. It's embarrassing. And if you're defending it because you think that we have to do what these people say, because you are now a defender of like slopaganda people who are doing the stupidest actions and doing really, really bad PR, you're just telling us that you don't care about our vote. You're telling us that you don't care about the hypocrisy. And if you are defending it, then you're probably one of those people who's like, perfectly programmed, as was brought up just a second ago. It makes me sad. It really does. Because at the end of the day, the Agenda 47, it still is good. Why am I still bringing it up? Because that's what you're accountable when you go and do the State of the Union. We're going to end with a State of the Union today. That's how the day is going to end. I've spent a lot of time freezing my butt off outside of State of Unions, hanging out with Secret Service, hanging out with members of DC Metro PD or whatever else was out there, keeping an eye on people who were mad. I did it while Biden was there. We did it when Trump was there. The whole point is that you're supposed to be accountable to the promises that you made. Trump made 20 promises to America. He gets like a C- at best, maybe a D+ on it. And it's not my fault. It's not Owen Schroyer's fault. It might be Kash Patel's fault. It might be members of this administration's fault for not acknowledging that they are not going to do the thing that they said. And they're going to just sort of like gaslight us and to try to act like it's our fault for noticing. And I'm not doing the cheerleading thing for a midterm that I don't care about anymore. I don't care. I expect the midterms are going to be a bloodbath. I'm in Texas. It's red here either way. Kash Patel probably gets impeached. And then when you get Gavin Newsom in talking about retarded black people or whatever the heck crazy thing he says, they'll probably go after him. I'd be shocked if they do not have a shadow file built up on the FBI director as of right now, because the information that I got is that video that everybody has seen now of Patel drinking in the locker room that came from a live stream that was immediately deactivated after it went live. So 10,000 people maybe saw it live, but that was it. And an FBI agent went and pulled it, ripped it, held on to it, and then disseminated it to many, many, many left-wing outlets. And me. That was a mutiny. That was the FBI taking the first shot at the director, because usually the job of the FBI is defend the director at all costs. I will show you the evidence by looking at how Chris Wray was always protected. Kash Patel is not under the protection of its own agency right now. And that means that he's probably in a really bad space. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here, and I will give you a fun palate cleanse. I've got to go grab it because it's quite good. It is from Mr. Newberg, who is a Trump hater, and that's fine. But he does have a talent for doing fun AI videos about the FBI director. As we go and do that, make sure you guys are looking at Spotify, at KyleSeraphinShow.com. Make sure you are checking out both our channels that are doing the video. That's going to be Rumble. That's going to be YouTube. It looks like we had a shut in the feed right when I brought up Bongino's name. God forbid. I don't know why that happens, but it does. And so I need you guys to make sure you're subscribed to multiple places so you've got it. And let's do a little song about FBI people, the official business of the FBI. And it should be this clip right here. I hope you guys are ready for a banger.
The story you're about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Oh, no one is innocent?
It's official business of the FBI. Hey, it's official business. Yeah. It's official business of the FBI. Flying out to my land, raise your hands up high. Take a private jet like you own the sky. Olympic Village vibes, got a party in style. In the locker room scene, yeah, you skipped inside. Holding gold above your head like Simone Biles. Your name on the list like the Epstein files. If the press gonna ask, you could just deny. It's official business of the FBI. Fly cash, wave bye-bye. It's official business of the FBI. Must smash, not crash. Cocked is your eyes. It's official business of the FBI. Fly cash, fly cash. Yeah. It's just official business of the SDI. Being lazy with your job like your lazy eye. Strapping with the players like the jockstrap guy. Yelling, we won go like you played the night. Busting up a trick cause you be Trump's guy. You be tripping, not slipping, it's your alibi. Calling national security. Nice try, only hockey cup you worthy is between their thighs. It's official business of the FBI. Fly cash, way bye-bye. It's official business of the FBI. Must smash, not crash, cocked is your eyes. It's official business of the FBI. Fly cash, fly. It's official business of the FBI. Shooter tried to hit the prez while you in the sky. The cartel is at war with our Mexican allies, but your business is the bro down with the hockey guys. You're a schmuck with the puck on the taxpayer's dime. Buffonios on bony skating like the slime. A Gretzky and no regrets. Who wants to party all the time? Your miracle on ice is being terrible at crime. It's official business of the FBI. Fly cash, way bye-bye. It's official business of the FBI. Not smash, not crash, cocked is your eyes. It's official business of the FBI. Fly cash, fly. It's official business of the FBI. A ridiculous Icarus with wings in the sky, overcompensating for being small as a fly. What was it you said about Chris Ray's G5? Investigation, no vacation, nobody buys your life. Bullshitting ain't fitting for a man of your size. You couldn't watch on TV, you had to be by that side. Ain't J. Edgar behavior, can't let this one slide. It's official business of the FBI. Like cash, wait, bye-bye. It's official business of the FBI. Look, smash, not crash, cocked as your eye. It's official business of the FBI. Like cash, fly.
I really hate that sad loser, Mr. Newberger.
Who, me?
Yeah, check out Newberger's. This one's good. I'll put the link in the show description so you guys can see it too, because that's a good one. Anyway, this may or may not be leaked photographs from the way home from the Olympics on our very expensive trip that we paid for. That's AI. I'm pretty sure it's AI. I'm pretty sure nobody from the FBI sent me that. I don't think that's real. Anyway, God bless you guys. I've had fun today. I hope you guys did as well. Felt like yesterday's was kind of heavy. Should end it on a light note with a banger of a song. Follow our sponsors, follow the channels, and go look at my buddy Steve Friend at the American Radicals podcast. It's at AmRadPod. You can find him on X. I think you can find him over on Rumble at the same thing, and then you can find him on YouTube. He'll be up in 30 minutes. Have a great Tuesday. Man, this week is already feeling long already. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live